Hello, everybody. Welcome to Cynispection. And today we'll be reviewing the Stepford Wives. Oh, wait. That's not it, right? Sorry. We'll be reviewing The Village. No. John, what movie is it?
It's Don't Worry, Darling.
Oh, I thought it was I thought it was Get Out.
Yeah, I mean, it is like this movie is. I told you it's every other movie. It's The Matrix.
Every other movie. Yeah, The Matrix, Vanilla Sky. You brought up.
Vanilla Sky. It's very much Vanilla Sky.
Very much Vanilla Sky. The movie, like you said, is Don't Worry, Darling, directed by Olivia Wilde. Famously directed by Olivia Wilde, I should say. And we'll talk about the controversy a little bit because it's really entertaining. Not that we have really an opinion on it, but it's just
no real
entertaining.
opinion on it. It's just funny.
It's just funny. And then starring Florence Pugh, Harry Styles. Is that his real name? Is it real name?
I mean, I don't know, but he's
probably like Harry Johnson.
He should just not act anymore after this movie would be a good thing. Act. He's so bad.
Well, interestingly enough, you have like the future of the MCU there. You know, you have Gemma Chan, Harry Styles, both of which were in Eternals, which none of us really enjoyed, and you have Florence Pugh, who's going to be headlining apparently the Thunder.
Yeah, but the difference is she can actually act, which is like she helped refreshing the movie together. So I mean let's just jump into it. Like we can.
Yes. Okay. So. Overall, we did not like this movie. None of us did. I won't say I didn't like it.
Yeah, it was okay. It was
whatever. It was fine. I feel like if it weren't, because you and I, like we talked about it, like we've been reviewing like 80s movies and 90s movies for probably like months now. And then we were like, hey, why don't we just do a new movie? And it's like this movie probably wouldn't have gotten either you or my attention or anybody else's attention if it weren't for the behind the scenes controversies.
Yeah.
So the movie's passable. Like, I guess if you're like 13 or 14 and have never seen a movie before, you will enjoy it.
I think that there is a good movie buried in this script. Like, I think that with a couple rewrites of this script and a better director, I could see this being a worthy movie. Like, because
I didn't see a problem. The direction was okay. I didn't see a problem.
No, it was jumpy. It was like there was continuity errors. Like
well, we'll blame that more on poor editing more than on her. But
okay, I mean, like the production, whatever you want to call it, production.
Yeah, behind the scenes,
all of that crap. I think if you got rid of all of that, the script could be really good. It does. The thing is that you've said all of those movies that it pulls from are movies that I actually like. Like,
yes.
I don't want it to sound like this is a bad idea or the thoughts behind this is a bad idea. I think that was a poorly executed idea. And there's a much better, like deeper idea within this movie that just kind of gets glossed over in the like last 10 minutes, maybe 15 minutes.
We'll talk about the ending because I do have some thoughts. I've heard what people are saying about it. I think you're more aligned with the people. I have different thoughts, but I mean, yes. I look. Here's the thing. You haven't seen the Stepford Wives, right?
No.
So I mean, it's a movie. I think it's from the 70s or something like that.
Well, they remade one with Matthew Broderick in like the early 2000s.
And Nicole Kidman, and Christopher Walken is in it. Glenn Close is in it. Like it's a killer cast.
Yeah.
And it's got it's directed by Frank Oz, who people don't know by name, but you might know him as the voice of Yoda, who he was a puppeteer in the 80s, and then he just became professional convention guy, I guess. And then he directed a few movies. He also made The Indian in the Cupboard. Remember that movie?
Oh yeah, I remember that movie
I remember being really bored by that movie.
Yeah.
It was like
anyway. It was slow.
It was slow as hell.
But that's kind of like what was Small Soldiers. Everybody wanted to make toy movies.
Living toy movies, yeah. Mannequin. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, so the Stepford Wives, I watched it. It's a comedy. It's just like a straight up comedy. It's like incredibly goofy. It's ridiculous. Like it's not taking itself seriously at any point. I remember enjoying it, but I think critics just like trashed it. And I haven't seen the original. I assume the story is pretty much the same. But honestly, Don't Worry, Darling is exactly the same plot as the Stepford Wives. Like, woman who's like a workaholic. But spoilers for Don't Worry, Darling.
Yeah.
But woman that's like a workaholic has a husband who's like kind of like high maintenance, and she moves with him to the suburbs to a 1950s like town where women just do everything their man wants. And then the woman starts realizing something's off. The man is into it. I guess in the Stepford Wives, the difference is that Matthew Broderick is not aware of what's going on at first.
Yeah. Versus this,
comes
where
Harry
she's
Styles
not aware of what's going on, and everybody else, pretty much for the most part, everybody
knows. Yeah. And actually, I think like, but even the beats are the same, like how she starts realizing something's off. There's a man who's the leader of the other men. In the case of the Stepford Wives, it's Christopher Walken. There's a confrontation between her and her husband. In the case of the Stepford Wives, I think the only difference is that actually, you know what? There's a confrontation, and then they're both like put to sleep and try to reconnect to this like reality. You know what I mean? Like here, Florence Pugh's plugged back into the Matrix. The Stepford Wives, they put chips on the women's brains or something. Whatever, they try to do the same, and they become suburban wives again, and then they go back and realize that something's off. There's a confrontation, and then there's a woman who is a part of the evil men group,
which is Olivia Wilde in this
case. Wilde, and it's Glenn Close in the other film, and then it ends with her escaping. The difference is probably, again, spoilers, but Harry Styles dies in this one, and the other one, Matthew Broderick, actually turns against the man and helps her get out of it, because Matthew Broderick can never be an evil man in any movie at all.
I mean,
it's the exact same movie, and then of course there's other movies that come into play in this one, but it's kind of embarrassing how derivative it is.
I mean, I think that this is why I said I think that there's a much better plot that they just kind of missed, which was
maybe the original Stepford Wives has that, like
maybe. I mean, I think the bigger thing here is they touched on. All right, so you find out about an hour and a half in is when you actually find out what's going on, that she used to be a doctor and all this other stuff. I think
he's like a hacker. He's like a antisocial guy or something.
No, he's not a hacker or anything. He's just like, I guess he can't find a job or hold down a job, and she's like a doctor, and like he finds a podcast online that kind of like radicalizes him into believing that this is better for whatever reason.
Right. This is like John Explains the Plot, sort of. Yeah.
Well, that's a much like better plot to dig into than like the hour and a half it took to get to that point. And they only brush over it in like 5 minutes. So
yeah, and I noticed something during that sequence. Like she starts having flashbacks, remembering what happened. But there's scenes in her own flashbacks that she wasn't there for.
Yeah.
Like Harry Styles meeting Chris Pine and like him setting her up. Like, how does she remember that if she wasn't there, or she's unconscious? Like, it's weird.
I mean, there's a whole bunch of problems with that too, because like the whole like when she's figuring that stuff out, she's underwater, which makes you think that like maybe they would hold her in a tank, a la Luke Skywalker, healing tank type thing, but she's just in a bed in some crappy apartment wherever,
because technically he wakes up every day,
goes
to all of them in real world work,
to pay for the cult, because that's what this is. It's a cult.
It's a cult, and then he connects in the nights. I guess that because there's a lot of plot holes here that I want to talk about, because maybe you caught something that I didn't, but they all leave at the same time. Why?
That's like, when they can like allow them to deconnect or whatever. Like it's a timer type thing, right? Like it's every day you go out and you make money, and like these are the hours that you're, because it's one of those like control things. Like going back to Nexium, right? Like when you control certain things,
Yeah.
specifically people's habits, the way they eat, like the time that they're awake, all of those things, you can control those people. And so like they actually nailed some things on the head. It is a cult. Like you kind of figure that out. But like the way that the cult is run and everything is very like regimented, and don't go there and don't do this and don't do that and don't question anything. So yeah, I mean that part's interesting. But
sure. I mean, yeah, but okay, but I want to talk about the performances in a bit. But we already hinted at Harry Styles, but we'll talk about everybody else. But let's talk about the other plot holes. What was the significance of the plane? Like, why was it? Because this is like the Matrix.
Yeah.
So why was there?
That there's a couple of those that don't make sense.
Like, why were the eggs empty? She breaks some eggs.
That never is told either.
Because there's food. They eat food.
The walls closing in don't make sense either.
The walls closing in on her.
The eggs, the only thing that I can imagine that the eggs are is like a glitch in the Matrix. You know what I mean? Sure,
but here's the worst one. At one point in the movie, this is one that's just like, when I thought about it, I was like, what the hell happened? Yeah. There's the doctor guy comes in and he wants to prescribe her some stuff. Why would he need to prescribe her anything if they're in the computer system? Just change the code, but whatever. Which brings me to another plot point. But he has a physical file in his briefcase.
Yes.
With the medical history of the lady that killed herself.
But it's all redacted.
But why does he have a physical file? It's a computer world.
I think that they were trying to like call out from like Westworld, where you remember in Westworld when he goes to look at the image and it's of him, and he's like, "Oh, that's an interesting picture." Like, remember they can never read certain things in Westworld. Like she goes to look at it, and all the data is technically there, but it's all blacked out. Like that's what I took from it.
But why would a physical manifestation of
why do they need to shoot each other in the Matrix? I mean, who knows? They could
but
code there.
But why is
that's what Leo literally does? I mean,
you can just delete the code. Like it's just like, why would you create code to have a physical manifestation of an electronic file? Because they're in the real world, and most files are not physical.
Well, I think that's all part of the illusion, right?
Right. Okay, fine. But why is he carrying it around? The lady's dead.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know.
Like, and then here's another one, because it seems like, so Olivia Wilde's character, and we're just nitpicking now, but it's so stupid. Olivia Wilde's character says that she's there because she can be with her kids who are dead.
Yeah.
So you can create human projections in this reality.
Well, I think that's as she remembers it, right?
Yes. Okay. So couldn't Harry Styles do the same thing to Florence Pugh and not have to connect her against her will?
Yeah, I mean, you could. You could also think about like the fact that she was laying in a bed for probably years. She would be like falling apart, like her muscles would have atrophied and like all of this. Like it.
Yeah, like that guy in Seven.
What?
The guy in Seven, the guy who's like,
yeah, exactly, yeah,
on a bed for 2 years or something. Yeah, it's exactly.
I mean,
how is he feeding her?
That's what I'm saying is there is a much better script in here if you like could cut out all of these like dumb parts, and you would have a 90-minute movie. Like all of these dumb little parts that we're talking about make up like how long this movie is, which is a 2-hour runtime for no reason.
It takes forever to get going. It takes forever to get going. Once it starts,
I don't know how long the first act in this movie is, because it's got to be an hour long. Like to be
well, I mean, the first act, I think the first act ends when she starts realizing something's off. So it's the first half
but she doesn't
hour,
really realize until like,
and then no, you know what? The end of the first act, I actually checked my watch because I was bored, and I checked it. It was when she sees the plane.
Okay,
that's
I'll call it that. Yeah,
that's when she realizes, okay, something's off here, and then she starts chasing.
Well, I thought the end of the first act. I guess that would make sense. It could also be when her friend like killed herself, the neighbor, whatever her name was.
Well, that could have been, yeah.
But somewhere in that range. But like what, 45 minutes in, something like. I mean, a very long.
It feels slow. It feels like. And there's a point where like the movie comes to a head when it's like there's really great performances by Florence Pugh. Well, Florence Pugh is great overall, and so is Chris Pine.
Yeah, Chris
So
Pine
we'll talk
was
about the
excellent.
performances that way because these two have like an interchange in the kitchen. Then he's like challenging her, like dig into this more. Like that was amazing. Both of them were really good in that. In that scene. And then I was like, okay, this is setting up like what does this guy do? Like it was like definitely like a Stepford Wives situation. You know, I could tell it a mile away. But I was like, okay, but what is he actually doing? I thought there would be some sort of like nuclear end of the world thing in the
that's what I was hoping for, honestly. And that this was just like set in the 1950s. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, but then I started thinking like I thought the same, but I started thinking they don't even try to do like a 1950s sounding script or 1950s accent. You know, people used to
which is the point, right? Like that's kind of the point, is like you have all these people that you're putting in the 1950s. Also, like the camera, I will say, like the cinematography like was very bright and like almost computerish. You know what I mean? Like versus what it would be like if they were filming something more gritty, which they did in the scenes in like in the apartment.
In the real world.
Yeah, in the real world. So that was, I mean, those things were good. Like I said, I think that if you cut 30 minutes out, you could have had a much better movie. There were so many things in here. Like there were the ballet scenes that kept happening where she was like realizing she was in this whatever world. And like each one of those was taking, you know, minutes at a time. It's just like, okay, we saw it once, like, and then again, and then
eyeball.
Again, and then
eyeball.
Yeah.
Yes.
And like, it's just so much. And like, why allude to water? Why do this? The eggs? Why, you know, like there were just a lot of scenes that didn't make sense. That one scene where she like wrapped her head, like that didn't make any sense. Like, why?
Oh, that's true. I forgot about that. Again, performance by Florence Pugh. She actually put her head into that bag. Yeah, that was amazing.
I mean, amazing scene. Like, if she would have figured out in that moment that it was fake because she didn't have to breathe, you know what I mean? Okay, that would have been a great, like, eye-opening scene. But
yes. It doesn't progress the plot. Like, nothing happens. It's just like, something's wrong.
Yeah.
I know something's wrong. What is it? Move forward. Have her try something. Like, the scene with Chris Pratt comes, like, 30 minutes too late, to your point. So let's talk about performances. We said Florence Pugh and Chris Pine. I think they're highlights of this movie. They're both great. Makes me feel bad that we don't really see Chris Pine like in many roles like this. He's usually like the Star Trek guy.
I like seeing him as the bad guy. I didn't know that I would, but now that I've seen it, I really like it.
Right. I'd like to see him. He could do like a Bond villain, you know.
Yeah, he'd be a great Bond villain, honestly. I could definitely see him as a Bond villain.
Yeah, I mean, a Marvel villain, of course, you could do. But I don't want to cast everybody in Marvel at this point.
Yeah, no, let's go with a Bond villain. Okay,
Bond villain, or in a spy movie, whatever it is, a movie with a villain. He could be
something like that. He could definitely play a bad guy. I'm glad that. He was.
Yeah, he was good. But let's
Olivia
talk about.
Wilde was barely in the movie.
She was good, but she was barely in it. She was busy directing, I'm sure.
Yeah,
and having the drama.
Yeah. And then
Harry Styles.
How is she even like? I mean, everybody's like she's in this movie, but she's in the movie. I think she might say 10 lines at most.
Not only that, but her introduction scene is like kind of like the movie literally stops. They're doing the ballet, and the movie stops, and women turn back to see her come in, and you don't know who it is. You just know somebody's coming because like this big dramatic introductory scene for a character that does absolutely nothing in the whole movie,
and then kills Chris Pine at the end of the movie for no reason. By the way, that has nothing to do with the plot. Like,
well, there's no explanation. Yeah, there's no explanation to it.
Like why even have a scene with him? Like there's no point because he can't stop her at that point. It would have been a much better scene for him to have seen her get out, because then that would have been like, oh, that's like, someone leaving the cult. That's not a good thing. Like, but instead his wife kills him and is like, it's my turn now. Like, what? Like,
she also had like aggressively defended him.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is like, that's her only scene, because otherwise she doesn't do anything. And honestly, Gemma Chan, like, she's I'm sure she's better, but like what she's done recently, meaning Eternals and this, honestly, doesn't really speak to her acting abilities. Yeah. Like I'm sure she's better in other things that I haven't seen her on. She wasn't Crazy Rich Asians, but
yeah, she's good in Crazy Rich Asians.
She was probably the standout in that one for me. But like I'm just unimpressed with her. Like, she's very one note.
I mean, in this movie, she just didn't even need to like. I mean, it was a lot of what I call like star power for such a minor role in.
Yes, she is. She's a pretty big star at this point. I agree. And then what about Harry Styles?
He's so bad. He's evidently so they like he tried an American accent or something, and it was just so bad that they were like, just go back to the British accent.
Well, there was a one-line fix where they were like, "Oh, do you want to be British in this dream world?"
Yeah.
It's like, what the hell? Who would do that? Like, who would do that? Like, honestly, it doesn't make any sense. Also, what about his promotion? Also, doesn't go anywhere.
I mean, oh yeah, it's not a
dances
promotion.
And stuff. Like, yeah, like. Again, stuff that could have been cut because it doesn't add to anything. And then it's intercut with the big reveal that Olivia Wilde is in on this. While he's just like a whole bunch of things. Yeah, he's not good in this movie. He's not a good actor. I was talking to Rachel about it. I feel like his face is like every other face. Like there's nothing like it's just like he could be anybody. He could be like, a guy walking down the street.
I mean, he just was not impressive at all, like especially for how much like drama this movie's gotten, which we can talk about that a little bit too. Some of the drama specifically, I want to talk about one thing, the sex scenes. So this movie, Olivia Wilde was touting this as like big sex scenes, like there's a huge drive about it, and whatever. The sex scenes in this movie are, I probably would call them PG-13. Like
there's no nudity. There's no nudity.
There's no nudity. I mean, there's nothing like. It's not a big deal. Like this movie did not have some like big deal. So I understand why Florence Pugh was like, oh, like I don't want you to talk about this, right? And like that, and that's where this whole feud or part of this feud comes from. Is she was saying like this movie is so much bigger than the sex scenes, and it is because those sex scenes do very little for the plot of the movie.
They don't do anything. It's just to set up that they love each other.
Yeah.
Well, I guess because also in the real world, she didn't want to have sex with him.
Yeah, exactly. Because she was too busy. So like this was his dream world, not hers.
But she was enjoying. I mean, well, was she really feeling what she was feeling in the fake world, or was it like all simulated? I don't know if they made that clear.
I have no clue. But I mean, I just wanted to say the sex scenes were not a big deal.
They were not a big deal. Yeah.
We watched, it was equivalent or akin to the sex scene in like the original Top Gun. Like that's how racy.
No, that was better because they were playing Take My Breath Away.
But I'm saying it was the same level of raciness. Like that's by the way, the original Top Gun's rated PG, I think. So like it's a.
Yeah, I mean, but those are good sex scenes because you have like Tom Cruise using a lot of tongue. They're funny. Like just the first.
I mean, I'm just saying it's not as bad as everybody made it out to be. By the way,
it's not memorable. It's not It's not like the sex scene in Showgirls, or it's not a sex scene you'll remember. Like
I don't think it was worth making such a big hubbub in the press about. Like it just
not at all. There was nothing like I guess two very attractive, very famous people.
I guess the big deal was like that he's not being played. It's all like her, like I mean, I don't know. I don't think it was like worth the it wasn't worth everything that everybody talked about. I mean, this movie overall, like I said, it was meh. It was okay. I'm not like walking out of the theater fuming. It's not you have to call me after you watch James Bond because you're so mad at the ending. Like it wasn't that. It was just like it's any other.
It's fine. If it weren't for the controversy, nobody would remember this movie.
No.
Like by next week. Like it's the most generic thing.
Well, it got beat out by Avatar in the box office, so
right, which is awesome. Like this, I mean, to talk about Avatar for a minute, but there's this like trend to talk about Avatar, like people making it seem like it was a bad movie, or it wasn't, like, it's just like nobody cares about Avatar. It's like, what the hell are you talking about? It's made by one of the best directors that's ever lived.
Yeah,
it's like visually everything you see in your Marvel crap.
Yeah,
it's like here because Avatar made it so. Like Guardians of the Galaxy could not exist without Avatar. Like the technology has been anyway. Rant, but we'll talk about Avatar when it comes in. I think that one we'll review here because we have to.
Yeah, we'll probably review that one.
I love the first Avatar. It's not my favorite, like, person becomes a part of a culture that they don't know.
I mean, it's not the
Last Samurai is the same thing. The Last Samurai is the same story, and I believe it's a superior film. But it's still pretty good. Anyway, this is not about Avatar. Let's close it out. John, like and subscribe. Everybody like and subscribe. We'll be back next week. Hopefully, are we talking about the Spanish version of Vanilla Sky?
I think we're gonna try to watch it. Yeah.
Let's see if it's available anywhere.
Yeah, if not, we're going back to the 80s and we're gonna watch something in the 80s again.
Probably, yeah, because nothing's really coming out. There's some scary movies coming out. There's one called Smile. It doesn't matter. I sent you the trip. We can just talk there. Anyway, we'll figure it out. We'll see you next week. Watch 80s movies. Go watch our 80s reviews and you'll see us like stuff. This one was just like, yeah, whatever. Goodbye, John.
See you later.
See you.